Okay, I think I'm finally on. Okay, sorry guys. That was really, really confusing. I don't know what was happening. But I think we're finally here. I think the video quality is terrible, but it's what we've got. Okay, so hey Katie, thank you for covering for me. That was intense. Let's see. Sorry, people are asking me why I'm not live, and I have to answer them. Okay, so how is everyone's Friday? I am super, super excited for the weekend. Not that the weekends are like that crazy fun around here or anything. It's just those are my days to like refresh and get caught up on things. So today we're going to be talking about homeschool questions. So if you are a homeschool mom like me, then you know that people have questions. So sometimes those are questions from people who do not homeschool, who are just curious, people who maybe think it's weird, people who um, maybe don't even like the idea of homeschooling. And they're like, why the heck are you doing that? And then there's the questions from people who maybe are considering homeschool or who are maybe just starting out on the journey and they want to know, what you know that they need to know. And so I'm going to address just the top five that I think are the most common that I hear. And you guys can chime in on, if you're a homeschool mom, tell me how you answer those questions, or if you're not and you have questions of your own, go ahead and pop them in the comments. Let's see. Ashley, yes, woohoo, I'm here. His love, her home. Hello from one homeschool mom to another. Hi, nice to see you. Okay, so this is here lately. I feel like I've been connecting with a lot more homeschoolers. And I don't know if there's just a bigger influx of homeschoolers because of COVID and all the weird things that are going on, or if my circle is just kind of expanding and I'm seeing new faces. But here are the most common ones that I'm getting. The first question I always get, and this is usually from non-homeschoolers, is why? This is what my family asked when we told them that this is what we were going to be doing. They were like, but why? And I think a lot of that comes from we've just been kind of trained to think that public school is the norm. I mean, those of you like Katie who were homeschooled yourself, maybe not, but a lot of us, that's just what you do. You send your kid to kindergarten and send them every day until they're graduated. And it's just normal for our country. Um, and so I think a lot of those questions are not necessarily, they don't have ill intent behind them. I think they just really want to know, like, why would you choose to do that? That's different. That's strange. I don't understand. And um, a lot of people ask, well, is it the safety thing? You don't trust people with your kids, or school shootings and bad influences at school and everything. And that's a little bit of it for us. Um, I mean, I like the fact that I know where my kids are at all time because I'm a control freak and that's just how I am. But it's not just that. That's a very, very small reason why we started homeschooling. Um, I will say a large part of it was safety in a way of knowing what they're being exposed to, knowing what truths they're being told or what they're being told as true. And that comes, my husband was very adamant about, history and political agendas in homeschool or in public school, and saying like, we can't just set our kids up to go live in that 6 to 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and then try to undo that all at home. So safety as far as guarding their hearts, yes. Guarding their minds, yes. Now safety as far as like, I'm afraid of school shootings. I'm afraid of all this stuff. I mean, a little bit, but not a huge part of it. Yes, Katie says exposure is more of a concern to me, especially the attitudes and theology. Yeah. So for example, we went to the pool a lot this summer. I really wish we had like a neighborhood pool. I don't want a backyard pool because I don't like 10K or stuff like that. But anyway, we go to the public pool a lot. And seeing the things that third and fourth grade girls are wearing, I was just appalled. And they're there without their parents. The language I was hearing, the jokes I was hearing, and these were not, 16, 17-year-old kids. These were 8, 9, and 10-year-old kids. And it was just very eye-opening to me. And yeah, theology, like, I don't know. just some of the stuff I remember from high school was bad enough, and I know even now they're pushing more things, than when I was in school. So I don't need to go into all that. You guys know what I mean. Let's see. So the Christian influence, yes, we wanted to raise our children with the proper knowledge of the Bible. We wanted to raise our children, it all came down to hours for me. I'm like, I can't send them away for that many hours and really be good at teaching them good biblical truths. Like, I don't have enough time to do that if I send them away for that long during the day. And so I like that throughout our entire day, we pray. We read the Bible at many different points during the day, and we saturate our history in the Bible by saying, here's what God says, here's what these people did. Do you think it was right or wrong? Things like that. We look at science through the lens of scripture. So everything we can take back to God's word, and you're not going to be able to do that in a public school. Some people ask if it's, academics. Is that why? Yeah, that was a little bit of it too. I love the fact that I can sit one-on-one with each and every one of my kids and know what they need and be able to give that to them, whether that be changing curriculum, whether that be moving really quick or moving really slow or whatever it may be. And, but mostly like if I had to boil down, why do I homeschool into like one, I mean, it's a huge list, but if I had to boil it down to one thing, it would just be, I felt convicted by the Lord. So many of you know my husband decided we were homeschooling before I did. He basically told me we were going to, and I'm like, nah, and a hard pass, no. But that was before my oldest needed to go to kindergarten. By the time he was ready for kindergarten, I had been convicted by the Lord that these are the kids that he has given us, and we have to steward them well. And to do that, I can't send them away that many hours a day. So that's what it all boils down to. The second question I get a lot of, and this is both from homeschoolers and non-homeschoolers, is the legality of it. So looking at how do you get away with that and how do you make that work and all of those things. Obviously, that just depends on your state. Here in Missouri, it is perfectly legal to homeschool. There's very few hoops to jump through. Some people who aren't familiar with homeschool are like, is that legal? Can you do that? And I'm like, yeah, we can. So sorry, my kids are banging on something out there. I always point people back to HSLDA if they are homeschoolers and like concerned about doing it the right way. If they're not homeschoolers, I just simply give them yeah, it's legal and we obey the rules of our state. So they don't need to know much more than that. The third question I get a lot is, what curriculum do you use? Now, this is typically from people who either homeschool themselves or wish they could homeschool or want to homeschool. But I do get this question from non-homeschoolers quite a bit more often than I thought I would. And I'm always just like, if I give you an answer, are you even going to know what I'm talking about? So like my brother-in-law, he works for a public school, and he asked me this one time, and I'm like, so I told him, but he was just like, kind of like, he didn't know what I was talking about. And so if it's a non-homeschooler, I just kind of give them a generic answer. If it's a homeschooler, I'll go through and break down, here's what we use, here's what we love about it, here's what we don't. And it's especially hard because we don't do a Becca. We don't do, a whole boxed curriculum. We do a little bit of everything. So that question can get really a lengthy answer if you want me to go through what we use for every single subject. But all homeschool moms like talking about curriculum, right? Ashley says, I have public school friends who like to talk curriculum with me too. Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I'm like, do you even know, like, if I say I use sunlight, do you even know what that means? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, fourth question I usually get is, can your kids still participate in everything? Are they missing out on opportunities and all of this? And I say yes and no. There's some things that, at least in my state, you can't do as a homeschooler. But there are equivalents elsewhere. And there's things that they have time to do that they wouldn't have time to do if they were in public school. Um, and so, no, my kids won't probably have a prom their junior and senior year. Do I really care? No. Do I think they're going to care much? Probably not. um, and my kids in our state, or at least our city, you cannot go and play sports on a public school team if you're homeschooled. Um, but you can play Parks and Rec when you're little, and you can, and when you're older. And there are leagues that you can join. There's so many different leagues that you can join that are just as good, if not better, because they are more intensive. And so if your kid really excels in something, there are traveling basketball teams in the homeschool community. There are traveling baseball teams and football teams and all the things. Then they can also, really chase after things that they may not have time for. So if your kid loves swimming or karate or art lessons or music lessons, like most homeschoolers that I know who do music, their kids are like exceptionally good at music because they have that time to practice. Okay, let's see. We have homeschool prom here in Kansas. Well, see, good to know. We had, when I was a senior, my church did a church prom, but I'm like, I didn't go. Like, it wasn't really my thing, but homeschool prom might be cool. I don't know. Hey, Jill. So, let's see, participation. Yes. So they get to participate. And in some states you can, and cities, you can enroll your kid into sports, even if they're not part of the public school system. It just depends on the city you live in. Ashley says we have a big homeschool basketball league out here. Yeah. So I'll never forget, we had just left our first like homeschool 101 meeting or whatever. It was like the summer before my son was going to be in kindergarten. I just kind of wanted to hear like, how do I even do this? And we had just left there and we went to dinner. I don't remember where we went, like IHOP or something. And I was like, who are all these kids? And they all had like jerseys on, but it was like a team that I'm like, that is not from around here. Who are these kids? And finally I overheard someone say that they were the traveling basketball team. There's a big conference or competition or something, I don't know, tournament in the city that I live in. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. So I know that those opportunities are there if my kids want to take part in them. And hey, Yasmin. And right now we're doing flag football with both my boys. And in the winter, we will do basketball with both of them. My youngest cannot wait till he gets to start playing football too. When we went to his older brother's evaluation at the beginning of the year to see, their skill levels so that they could be put on teams, we were getting ready to leave. He's like, Mom, they didn't watch me play. They didn't get to watch me throw the ball. I'm like, I'm sorry, dude. You can't start till you're 5 and you're only 3. So Katie says, we even have an alternative homeschool prom. They go to a concert, bowling, dinner, and dancing. It goes until like 1 a.m. Hey, bowling, dinner, that's more my speed. That's all right. Prom, I don't know. Not a lot of good comes from prom sometimes. I'll just say that. And then people in that same vein, when they ask about sports and all the different things, clubs and whatever, they also ask about college. Like, is your kid going to be able to go to college? And the answer is yes. Actually, colleges, especially around here, are very, very kind to homeschoolers. They like having homeschoolers. One, I think there's some sort of like, I don't know the logistics of it, but I was hearing someone talk sometime about like with their finances and all this stuff, like it's good for them to have a certain ratio of homeschoolers to public school kids. So they're actually seeking out homeschoolers sometimes. And I've actually heard college professors say that they prefer homeschooled kids in their classes. And that's probably because we give them a chance to have that self-directed learning. We give them, my hope anyway, is to give my boys a love of learning and an ability to know how to learn so that they can go on to college if they want to and really know how to direct themselves and not have to just sit there and twiddle their thumbs while they wait for someone to do something for them. And so, yes, you can go to college if you're homeschooled. And actually, there's specific scholarships for homeschoolers too. So it's definitely a possibility. I am one that I am not going to force any of my kids into college. I don't want to put them in a ton of debt unnecessarily. But if they know what they want to do and that requires college, I am going to be there every step of the way, helping them however I can. And hopefully they get lots of scholarships and have good jobs where they can help pay for it themselves. And the last question I get is a very broad question, and it depends on who's asking it on what they mean. But I have people all the time say, "How do you do it?" And some of them mean like, that's hard. I have some friends who are in the public school system and they're like, man, that sounds great. I just can never do that. I can never do that. I don't have the patience for that. And I don't either. But the Lord is faithful when you just say, yeah, I'm going to do what you have asked me to. And you just trust it to Him. He's faithful and He gives you enough patience. Not to say I don't lose my patience sometimes, but He gives more than we need. People ask, financially, how do you do that? How do you afford to stay home? Again, we trust the Lord. And my husband does not have some people get the idea that my husband must, have some amazing job where, we just can do whatever we want. No, we have to watch our finances. We have to budget. But it is a sacrifice that I would make again and again and again. We may not get to go on the trips we want to go on. We may not wear the highest end clothes or drive the nicest cars, but I really don't care because I get to pour into my children every day, and that is worth it every time. Some people are more like, on the homeschool side, they're like, I'm trying this and it's really hard. How are you doing it? And I have to tell them that, yeah, it is hard. You're right. But the beauty of homeschool is you tweak as you go and you pause when you need to pause and you check hearts when you need to check hearts. And you just can constantly be shifting and changing according to your needs, your kiddos' needs, and make it as easy as possible. But it's still going to be hard. But good things are often hard. And I say that all the time, but I truly believe it, that just because something is hard does not mean it's not good and not worth your time. Look at, I've been talking about or learning about Paul lately. His life was hard, but it was good. And, if you look at any of the heroes of the faith, they went through things that were hard and their joy was in the Lord and they persevered because of the Lord. And so homeschooling is no different. You can persevere too. And some people, when they ask like, well, how, they're asking like, what's your game plan and all this? And I get the question all the time, are you always going to homeschool? And that's always by people who are not homeschoolers. I don't know what tomorrow holds. I don't know what tomorrow holds for our nation. I don't know what it holds for our family personally. I would like to say, yes, we're going to graduate all of our kids through homeschool. That is the plan. A lot of people say we just take it year by year. That kind of used to be my philosophy. But now I'm just like, no, we're not even taking it year by year. Like, we are going to make our plans to homeschool until they all graduate, and the Lord will direct our steps. So that may be that He blesses us and allows us to do that. And that may be that, something happens in our lives where we're not allowed to do that anymore. And He'll, take care of my kids then too. So our hope is to homeschool them all the way through. That was always such a scary thing to say to me. I always said, we'll take it year by year, mostly because I was scared to take on the task of homeschooling high schoolers. But now that I know more and more people who have done it, I have more friends who have done it. My pastor and his wife have done it. I'm like, okay, so not only can you make it, like you survive, your kids survive, but their kids are actually like good adults. And it's like, yes, like not only can you survive, but it actually works to produce good kids who have grown up to adulthood. And so, just with everything, we have to just give it to the Lord and say, here's what I want, Lord. But you're going to have to make it happen because we can't, we don't know tomorrow. And we just have to trust Him with that. Katie says, I can't wait to homeschool high school. My mom says it was her favorite age to homeschool. Well, I don't know. I think junior high is going to be a test for us for sure. I think high school, if my plan of teaching them to be self-taught, self-guided learners, I might really love high school. But I don't know. Right now, we're just starting to enter that middle school age. And Katie, I know you are too, but and I see some issues coming out that I'm like, I was not prepared for this. So I don't know about that. Jill said, I can't wait for high schoolers to just to hang out and chat with the older kids. Yeah, I am finding the older that my kids get, the better the conversations get for real. And I just love that homeschool gives us that opportunity to really know each other and to have those discussions. You know, we can read a book and sit and talk for 30 minutes and not even be talking about whatever the lesson was about, but those good, rich conversations are such a blessing. And I can imagine those would only get better and better the older they get. Let's see, Jill says, like really hang out, you know? Yeah, really hang out. Katie, oh yes, there will definitely be issues for sure. Yeah, yeah. I'm seeing that already. It's like all of a sudden my son's in 5th grade and he likes to sleep a lot. And I was like, you were the kid that was always up at 6:30, like ready to go. And now he gets really mad if anyone wakes him up before 7:30. Like he gets ticked. And I'm like, well, we got things to do, kid. And I don't know, there's just also like weird things. Like he was always like my very diligent child with chores and all that. And now he's like halfway doing things. I'm like, I feel like this is puberty coming on. I'm not ready for that. Jill is dabbing, I think. Okay, so those were my top 5 questions. Why do you homeschool? How do you legally homeschool? What curriculum do you use? Can your kids participate in stuff? And how the heck do you do it? And those are the answers that I typically give. Again, if it's a fellow homeschooler, I usually go more in depth on a lot of those. If it's someone who's just like very speculative, I give answers, but I'm not going to sit there and argue with them. My family now, I think, is a lot more supportive than they were in the beginning. In the beginning, they had lots of questions. There was a lot of, well, just for a couple years, right? Like, you're not going to do this like long term, right? Like, and I just had to graciously, that's when I was still saying, we'll take it one year at a time, because I mean, how do you answer that? And no, homeschoolers don't have to be weird, but I always say they were doomed to be weird anyway, because they're my kids. So I was a public school kid and I'm very weird. So, I mean, they weren't going to escape that anyway. So, Jill, I get that question all the time. Yeah. Yeah. It's a common one. So, unless you guys have any other questions, Jill, unless you guys have any other questions, then I am going to hop off here. I was weird without being homeschooled. Yeah. See, Megan, it just happens. It just happens. And let me know, unless you have other questions, let me know down below what you do when a day doesn't go as planned, because that's what my next homeschool video is going to be about. And so I want to know what you guys do. Jill, stop it. I want to know what you guys do when you have a day that just gets turned upside down, like how you handle that day. Anyway, okay, I will talk to you guys later. Comment down below what you do on a bad homeschool day, and I will see you next time.